So James, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, Michael.
Excellent. Agenda setting, particularly at the listing appointment, such an important component of making sure that you're on the same wavelength, get off to a great start well and truly. Do you want to just talk a little bit about, what's the philosophy and the approach of that?
Well, I think it comes definitely back to your pre-qualification, actually meeting with a client, because I think that's an amazing opportunity to uncover as much as you possibly can about the client's intentions, needs, wants, desires, who you're up against in competition, those sorts of things. And that then paves the way to then probably recap when you're sitting down with a client and say, okay, well, we've covered off on X, Y and Z.
Yes.
From a point of view of the conversation we had yesterday. But, putting fees and marketing aside, and so if we make the best of our time together, what else would you like to cover off on today? And just in case it sort of uncovers anything else that's sort of come up.
Yeah. Great. And even a conversation, sometimes even the phone conversation stimulates a question or two that we haven't covered off so far.
Yep.
And quite often as a couple, you can be thinking about some things you want to cover off on. Any things that you want to make sure we cover off on today, and sort of getting those points down. And then are you writing them down?
Yeah, and I think it's just recapping on that too, even if they say they don't want to cover off on things, it's a great opportunity for you to actually tick onto the list things you think they should or would like to hear.
Yes, yeah.
So that, and definitely writing them down. I think, putting it down as a visual in front of the client allows you to then tick off as you go along, and then allow you an opportunity to recap on all of those positions as well. So
Yeah. And look, a great way to top up if they say, no, there's nothing else we want to cover off on, you can turn around and say, well, a lot of my clients are also interested in what's happening in the current market. Would you like me to cover that with you?
Sure.
They say yes, and beautiful linguistics in there, because you said a lot of my clients, would you like to cover it too? Yes. They've started to move closer to being a client without even knowing about it.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So what sort of top-ups would typically you put in? Or what would they typically say?
I would definitely think many clients are going to say, James, we want to know about fees and marketing, obviously. So I think it's important to deflect that at the start, because that's the last thing you want to start talking about. So you always say, other than fees and marketing, what would you like to cover off on? And they might say things like, oh, look, we'd like to know about timing. You mentioned...
You write down timing?
Definitely, yeah. Styling or presentation. A lot of them want to do the walk around of the house. Let's walk room by room through the home. What do you think about the property? And of course, we can cover off on that. I think method of sale is always a big one, and certainly that's something that pre-qualification is very important about, because the last thing you want to do is bring up auction if they've been very against the idea from a previous experience. So again, just got to qualify that as best as you possibly can.
Yeah, or even a level of awareness around method. When you get to method, maybe given they've had a bad experience of that, would you be open to, given your previous experience was not ideal around auction, would you be open to that method if we could demonstrate that it was going to be low stress for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think some good top-ups are more like campaign flow and how we communicate with the client, maybe going through a whole campaign book and saying, well, from where to go, this is how we roll.
Yeah. So really walking through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Maybe if they're really into it, marketing examples, the way that we do our marketing from a point of view looking at press versus online. E-strategy sometimes comes up, and I think now social media is becoming a big role in these sorts of things. So again, it depends on the client and what they're into, what they're not into. Comparable sales evidence analysis and those sorts of things also play a part too. So there's quite a bit.
Yes.
But you don't need to cover them all either.
No. But potentially by you even throwing one or two top-ups in that they haven't thought about shows that you're ahead of the game, you're going to lead the conversation, you're going to help us in the process of being that advisor that they're looking for, which is great. Do you ask a question at the end, are you ready to go? Or, assuming we cover off on these points, are you doing something like that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've got to read the play there, depending on whether you feel there's going to be another meeting or not. But I think having that agenda in front of you, if you then recap on each of the key points on that agenda and say, look, we've covered off on timing, method of sale, you seem to be very happy with the marketing presentation, the way we communicate with you. Based on all those being ticks, do you feel like you're in a position to move forward? Or, based on that, do you feel you need to go and meet with the other agents? Be a bit cheeky with it if you feel you can do that with the client.
So that's at the end. Would you do that check-in? And I guess it comes back to the pre-qualification and how you got the business, the opportunity
That's right.
coming to you. But if you actually said, here are the points that the client wants to cover off on, would you assume we cover off on all these points today? Are you in a position to put me to work or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think, again, you've got to read whether that's going to be the right timing for it. Or whether you, maybe as each point is covered off, okay, we've now covered off on timing. Does that all seem okay? So that's like a mini close. You feel comfortable with that? And get them keep saying yeses throughout the process. Maybe then toward the end we'll build up to a better, crescendo of actually then asking for the business later on. But again, I think definitely if you're dealing with a client you've sold to for a previous time, I think you could definitely do that. Yeah. Excellent.
That's great. And what about if during the conversation they want to add something else on? Would you add it to the agenda?
Yeah, I think once you've set the agenda with the client, I think you've then got to invite them to say, at any stage during the process, if you want to add something to the list or recap on something or pause for a while and really hone down on one item, to sing out at any stage. Otherwise, I'll go through this list one by one as we feel it's appropriate and we'll go from there. So again, let them know how the meeting's going to take place based on the agenda that they've set. It's not your agenda, it's their agenda.
Their agenda as to them making the best decision to move forward with the sale of the property.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
So, and it's great, an agenda is a great way for you not to lead anything and for them to feel like you're involved in what they want, not what you want.
Yes. Yeah. Any other tips or anything else you want to go through?
Well, no, I think keep it simple. Sometimes you don't need to cover off on all of these items. If you've got a good client or you've got someone that you've communicated, quite well with throughout the process, it might just be a few key items they want to cover off on, and they're ready to do business with you. You don't need to go through all of those items.
You're right, actually. Particularly if they've been in your pipeline for maybe 2 or 3 months, and you've given them great service in that process, it could be a very, very quick conversation that you think you're going into, do the big song and dance. That's not what they need. In fact, that could be a turn off rather than a turn on in terms of where they're going.
Yeah, I was on the phone yesterday with some clients who live in Perth, and I'm really keen to get in front of them before the end of the year. And then she just rang and said, James, we're going to go with you. We don't need to know anything else about the way you do work because we love all the communication and feedback and experiences we've had with you. All we're going to do is catch up with you in February, and we just want to go over the marketing. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so she said, "Can you lock me in for this date?" And I'm like, "Okay, great. I don't need to do anything."
I don't even need to fly to Perth to go and present. Damn, a tax deductible trip was coming my way.
Could have been.
Yeah, fantastic. James, awesome. Really great insights, and thank you for sharing.
Pleasure. Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it.